Hi, and in this Squishmallow tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made my DIY custom Squishmallow backpack. I can't believe how cute this came out. It even has a functioning zipper in the back because, of course, it's a backpack. Remember, you're the designer here, so you choose whatever fabrics and colors and styles you want. So go ahead and click the link in the description of this video and download the pattern. Once you download the pattern, you get two patterns. The body of the Squishmallow, which you put together 1 through 6 like this, tape it together, and then you get all the accessories. Now check this out. You get different tails, different spots, different size ears, however you want to make your Squishmallow. And stick around to the end because I'll show you how to make the bow if you want to sew that on. I've gone ahead and printed out and taped together the pieces and cut them out along the black solid line. And I love storing them in my clear sleeves here because it's just so easy to keep all the little pieces together. So I'm using a simple cotton for the pocket, a fleece here, and these plushies. While the black is actually a stretch polyester, and this really simple plush here, and that's a simple cotton like I said before, and my 7-inch zipper. So like I mentioned in all my Squishmallow DIY tutorials, you can cut this out any way you want, but make sure you always cut it out on the back or the wrong side of your fabric. So for plush, like I always mention, I really don't love cutting it out with it pinned together. So I like to use weights, trace it, move it out of the way, and then cut it, just like I'm doing here. Of course, you have the option of pinning and cutting around the pattern with your shears. Loving this DIY Squishmallow tutorial? Why don't you subscribe so you can stay up to date with all my latest videos? Just click on the link on the upper right corner. So for the back of the Squishmallow, make sure that you've cut out along the dotted line and then you actually make a marking on your fabric so you know where to cut that line there for the zipper area. So when cutting out the bottom of your Squishmallow pattern, it's really important to leave these triangle notches sticking out so that you know where to match them after when you're sewing it onto the body of the Squishmallow. My fabric really wasn't cooperating, so I made some marks in the back there so I know exactly where those points are. So now for the spots. I've decided to use them, and you're going to cut out 2 of the top spots there. There's the front and that's the back there, and you're going to cut out 1 of the other ones there, and it's written right on the pattern. So for the spots on the top, I'm going to use my white fleece. As you've probably noticed by now, you really need to look at a finished Squishmallow in order to decide what color you want for your spots, your ears, and so on. For the tail, I definitely want to make mine two-tone. You could either fold it and trace the pattern, you could cut it and retape it back after, whatever you find easier. So I just find it easy to fold the fabric after I trace half of it. This is what I'm trying to tell you here. Just watch what I'm doing. So I trace half of it, and then I know that's where the bottom of my tail is. You can do the same. And what I'm going to do is fold the fabric. So I cut once and get two pieces. And I'm making the tip of my tail with the white fleece. So I'm going to cut out two pieces of those. And once I cut those out, I'm just going to push them aside for after when I need to construct the tail. And now for the interior pocket. I love when you open up a pocket and there's a splash of color, so that's why I'm using this floral cotton here. So you're going to cut out two of these. And now for the backpack straps. I made one here already, and I'm going to show you how to make one, and of course you'll be making two. So you need two pieces at 37 inches in length. So cut two pieces out of your straps at 37 inches each, and then you're going to need two pieces at 4 inches each, and then you're going to need one piece at 6.5 inches. This one's a little less, but 6.5 is better. Sewing, here's what I have: my front body, my back body of my Squishmallow, the bottom of the Squishmallow, my two pieces for the pocket, my tail, which is either 2 or 4 pieces, then my 2 spots, because I want to add 2 spots, 1 spot for the front and back, and there we go. Then my 4 ears and my zipper, of course, and of course the strap stuff, but again pushing that aside until I need it. So my first step is I'm going to sew together the dart on the front body, and I'm going to sew it with 1/4 inch seam allowance. So after that's sewn closed, I'm going to place my spots on the front of the body exactly how I want them. Remember, you're the designer here, so place them how you want them. And yes, I have to fix the bottom of my fabric. Not sure what's going on there. So these two fabrics that I'm using don't fray. Like the white fleece does not fray after I cut it, so I do not need to do any sewing to it. But if you have a fabric that frays, fold over a little hem just like I'm showing you here, give it a press with the iron, and then pin it in place to sew down, because you don't want a really nice Squishmallow with fraying spots. And now I'm going to sew very close to the edge of both spots. And I didn't change my thread. It's still black. I'm using all black just so you could see my sewing. And it's pretty okay because the fleece is pretty forgiving and it doesn't really show too much. Once my spots are sewn in place, I'm going to create the cat ear. So with the right sides together, I'm going to sew around, back stitching on the ends. Right here on the ends I back stitch, and then I could flip them right around, just like this. I didn't bring you over to the sewing machine because that was pretty simple. Then I'm going to place the ears exactly how I want to see them on the finished Squishmallow. And what I'm going to do is flip them wrong side this way. It looks really wrong, but it's the correct way to do it. I'm just going to flip them over and pin them right in place. So once they're pinned in place, I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine and just give it a quick tacking stitch. Just a simple stitch right across so they stay in place. Now to create the zipper pocket. So there's two pieces here, and you're going to place the zipper at the top of the wrong side. And I'm creating a little hem here, really small, 1/4 of an inch, even less. Remember, you're looking at the wrong side, and now I'm going to place the bottom of the zipper right over that hem I just created. So make sure you don't cover the zipper teeth part. And then what I'm going to do is use some clips or whatever is easier. So yeah, I think I'm going to add 2 clips on the ends here. And then what I'm going to do is add a thin straight pin in the center there. Well, of course, all my pins are thin. You know what I mean. And then I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and I actually didn't put on the zipper foot because it actually works with the regular presser foot. Once that's sewn in place, looks good there, I check it, bring the zipper back. I'm going to take the other side with the right sides looking up at me, right sides together. I'm going to line up the top of the zipper with the top of the other interior pocket piece. Just like this, I'm going to clip it together. Now right over to the sewing machine, straight stitch right across with back stitching on the ends. Okay, so we're going to open up the pocket, right sides facing down, and the back of the Squishmallow right side facing you, facing up. We're going to place it right over the zipper, and you're going to see here how I take my time and slowly and carefully fold over the edge of this plush right over the zipper. So I'm going to make sure it's not even near the teeth of the zipper for obvious reasons. Once it's all pinned in place, I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and carefully and slowly sew around the perimeter of the zipper. This is one of those things you just want to really be careful with, so you just take your time with this sewing. Across the top, across the bottom, and on the sides of the zipper. And as I'm sewing the zipper, I make sure that the pocket under this back piece stays flat open like I originally opened it. And you'll see as I'm sewing, I take my time and I stop and I keep folding under that hem of the plush. All right, this is coming together. So what we're going to do now is we're going to line up the best we can the interior pocket here, and I'm going to pin it together and then just sew around the perimeter. So I'm going to sew around the perimeter with about a 1/2 inch seam allowance, making sure I start at the very, very top there. Once that's sewn together, I'm going to put together the tail. Really easy steps. Right sides together. So the white fabric and the black fabric are right sides together. And with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, I am going to attach them. And just like I created the ears, right sides together, pin all around, and then I'm going to sew all around, back stitching on the ends so that I turn it right side out, like I'm making a little pouch, a tail pouch. I'm going to use my dull scissors or the dull tip to help me push this around. And then I'm going to stuff only half with some great soft silky stuffing. What I'm going to do next is sew the tail in between the dart. So instead of just sewing the dart closed by itself, I put the dart right in there. I sandwich it in between and I'll sew it closed. Making sure the dart is on the outside or the good side of the fabric. So when you flip it around, the tail sticks out. Now the same way that I sewed the spots onto the front of the cat, I'm going to do the same thing here on the back, making sure that the top spot does not cover the zipper. And I like to make the spots match from front to back, but if yours don't match or you don't care, then it's all right. You don't have to. Remember, you're always the designer when creating your plushies here. Now on to the straps. I made one and let me show you how you're going to do it. First, you're going to take your 4-inch piece of strap there and you're going to slide it through the D-ring. And you're going to sew the end there closed. Just like I did there. I did it like 2 or 3 times over that end. And then you're going to slide that ring through the long end, or whatever, the end of the long strap I meant. And then you're going to take your slider on the other end, you're going to loop it through. And after you loop it through, you're going to fold it over about 1/2 inch, right? So keep it folded over like that. And then you're going to take that end and you're going to fold it again to 2 inches right there. So first fold over the end 1/2 inch, then fold it over 2 inches. And once you have it down, and fold it. You're going to sew back and forth about 3 or 4 times there. And there you go. You made your strap. One last thing, slide the other end through the slider, and there you go. It works. You have a strap. Now you're going to repeat the same, so you have 2. So now we're going to place the straps onto the backpack so we could sew it together. So we're going to take that last piece that we have left over that we cut out, and we're going to place it exactly how we want it up there and flip it upside down, just like we did with the ears. And what I'm going to do is actually pin it in place. Then with the back of the Squishmallow over it, I can see exactly where I can place or must place the other straps. So not with the end with the D-ring, but the opposite end, right? The end with the slider. You're going to place it exactly onto the back of the Squishmallow so it lines up to the other loop you just created. And keep that all together. Clips, pins, whatever you want to use. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other strap. Making sure that the front of the strap, right, faces the front of the Squishmallow. So what I'm doing here is using a pin to bring the straps to the center of the Squishmallow just to hold them in place so that while I'm sewing around the Squishmallow, the front and back body together, I don't catch any of the strap parts on the side seams. And now with the pocket out of the way, I'm going to sew all the way around the perimeter of the Squishmallow, back stitching on the ends. For the fun part, flipping it right side out. Look at how cute this is coming together. Just adorable. So my next step is to sew the bottom of the Squishmallow on. So I'm going to flip it wrong sides out again, and I'm going to take the bottom piece of the Squishmallow, and using those notches, I'm going to match it. So the side notches there match up to the side seams. And then same on the opposite side. And then the notch here goes and matches up with the darts. As you can see, I stop my sewing a lot, and I'm always adjusting the plush just to make sure I catch all of the layers and they're lined up correctly. Just adorable. Now my next step is to add the stuffing. So I have it to a point that I like, and I'm gonna have to fold over this mangled fabric. Look at that. And I'm folding over, creating quick, simple seams. And what I'm doing is just going across and sewing the opening closed. No reason for me to use a blind stitch here. I'm just using like an overcast blanket stitch. And as you can see, I'm folding the fabric edges over first to create seams. And then when I'm at the end, I stick the needle through the loop and I pull it through to create a knot, and I do that twice. And now it's time to create the face. So I've already gone ahead and cut out the nose out of pink felt. I'm just going to pin it down there. And you can do the eyes any way you want. You could choose any eyes you want. You can lightly pencil them in, and then with embroidery floss and an embroidery needle, you can embroider them. I'm going to do that with the mouth and the whiskers. Or you can even cut out any eye you want out of the felt, just like I did with the nose, and do it that way. So this is the way I'm going to do it. I like attaching the nose and the larger parts with a back stitch. A running stitch is the one where the stitches have the spaces in between, but the back stitch you actually back up before moving on to the next stitch, so you close up that little space there. But it really doesn't matter which stitch you use. It's totally up to you. And with a very nice embroidery floss and embroidery needle, I'm going to put in the whiskers here. You're going to see some of my stuffing coming out, but I'm going to fix that at the end. I'm going to really clean up all that extra stuffing that tends to come out, because I like adding the details to my Squishmallow when it's nice and stuffed. To me, it makes a difference because I can see exactly where it's going. And now let me show you how to put together the bow in case you want to make a bow for your Squishmallow backpack. And that's how I created this Squishmallow backpack. So if you really enjoy tutorials like this, why don't you check out the other Squishmallow tutorials that I've created? And don't forget to subscribe so you could be up to date with all my awesome plushie tutorials. Thanks for watching.